All right, well, welcome back to VP Culture. This is lesson 4 in the Culture Science class. This lesson is called the Leadership Superpower. We're going to focus you on the one thing that motivates all people and how to use it as a superpower. So let's dive into this. Okay, so we've discussed that there's one thing that motivates all people, and that one thing is valuing people and being valued by others, really. And so this is our superpower. We can focus people on this one thing and it becomes sort of like your prime directive, like they had in Star Trek. The one thing that we always follow in all of our decision making. And the nice thing about this is we're also learned that this is the one thing that everyone really wants. And if you can keep them focused on it, then they'll be self-motivated to move in that direction. So your job as a leader is not so much to push them in this direction, but to help them to discover that this is where you really want to go all by yourself. And what this does is it becomes a much easier way to lead, where everyone is moving down this path in a self-motivated fashion. And you as a leader are really just refocusing people on that, because we can get distracted and lose our focus as team members, as leaders, as to where we're going and why we're doing what we're doing. And that's the number one reason why we have disengagement, is people forget why we're here in the first place as human beings. Okay, when I initially started my quest for teaching people about culture and how to work together as teams, I found that there were different leaders. Like John Maxwell would say there's 21 principles that you have to follow, or Gallup says there's 21 outcomes that we really need to key in on. And then Covey said there's 7 habits that you really have to have. I even found somebody who said there's 53 different ideas that you have to have great culture. So which is it? And I've asked people who have gone to these schools, so what's the one thing that leaders lead people to? And they stand and look at me with a blank stare like, I don't know. I've got the 21 things or the 7 things or the 12 things, but one thing. Otherwise it ends up being like, okay guys, go this path, that path. And they don't really know where they're going, and no one really, it's just this jumble of leadership. What do we apply now? Where do we go now? It's really easy to get lost, and it's really easy to confuse people as to where you're leading. What's important now? Oh, the 4th principle, the 22nd idea, the 3rd habit, the 26th, principle. It becomes very convoluted and very confusing. So we need one thing that leads people on. So we're also going to be diving into what the difference is between these two types of motivators. Intrinsic motivations, which is really what we're talking about here with VP culture, and extrinsic motivations, which is money, which is the obvious one. But there's also things like, hey, I'm going to do something really purposeful with this project, or I'm going to really enjoy this. And those are all good things, don't get me wrong, but they end up being things that motivate us from without. So those are the things that as leaders that we would need to constantly be pushing people towards and having people move in this direction in an energetic way that will be very difficult. So what we really want to do is focus people on this intrinsic side of the motivation, which is really created by what we create with others rather than what we create externally. We might create an object or a service, for sure, we all do, but we all do it for people and with people. And when we start to focus on that, this becomes an intrinsic motivator. And we've gone over some of the neurological reasons behind that, and we'll continue to lean into that in this lesson as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about extrinsic motivators. So listen to this. The more you push, the more resistance you will get with extrinsic motivation, both positive and negative. So what do I mean by that? So if I'm giving you, hey, I'll give you this cash incentive if you do this thing, you're going to need to continue to fuel that fire the next time you want that to happen. You're going to have to give that extrinsic motivator again at a greater amount for it to have the same effect. Or if I have some negative consequence, like if you do this, this is what's going to happen. That kind of negative consequence is going to have the same demotivational factor. So extrinsic motivational tools that leaders use are are always of diminishing quality, and they're always exhausting because they have to have constant energy from a leader, and you end up managing people, and people will always find another way to sort of avoid your negative manipulations, and they'll always try to find a way to get more out of your positive manipulation. So you're exhausted because you're constantly being drained, leading with extrinsic motivators. So we really want to focus on this second category, the intrinsic motivations, and use your superpower of valuing people is going to create intrinsic motivations. You're turning them towards the interior of themselves. That's what intrinsic means. It means inside of us. So let's look at this quote here. Truly great leaders are the ones who inspire greatness in others. So what you're doing is you're helping people to discover what's great in them. You're releasing the awesomeness of each individual. And as a leader, that's what you can do. You can't create something more than that individual already is. That individual definitely can improve. They definitely can grow. And you can see it in them, and you help bring it forth. So valuing others is what we're trying to lead people towards, and it is this universal tool. It becomes your superpower as a leader to focus on one thing and one thing only. And that's this. To be a great leader is to focus the energy on valuing others within your team and within your organization. It's the singular focus. It's the one superpower. It's the thing that will make you a great leader. It's this singular focus. If you can do this for yourself, do this for your team, you're going to handle everything that's going to come at you. All right, so that's the focus of this lesson that we learned from the book.